Have you ever wondered why governments care so much about sport? Why presidents attend matches? Why prime ministers celebrate goals? Why countries spend billions hosting tournaments that last only a few weeks? And why, when a national team wins, political leaders often celebrate that victory as if it were a national achievement? On the surface, the World Cup is simple. It is football. 11 players against 11 players. A ball, a field, a referee, a crowd, and 90 minutes of hope, pressure, fear, and possibility. But beneath the goals, the trophies, and the celebrations lies a much larger story. A story about power. A story about identity. A story about money, reputation, influence, and the way nations present themselves to the world. The World Cup may be the most important sporting event on Earth, but it is also one of the world's largest political, cultural, and economic stages, and understanding that stage helps us understand the world itself. Every week, we go beyond the headlines to uncover the forces shaping our world. We focus on one big story. We explain why it is happening, and we explore what it means for everyday life. This is Beyond the Headlines, from headlines to understanding. So today, we ask a simple questions with a surprisingly complex answer. Why is the World Cup not just about football? But if football is a stage, who is using that stage and for what purpose? Can a football tournament change how the world sees a country? To answer these questions, we need to look beyond the pitch, far beyond the pitch. Billions of people watch World Cup matches every 4 years. Children wear national colors, families gather around televisions, entire cities pause. Streets become emotional spaces. Social media fills with hope, anger, pride, humor, celebration, and heartbreak. But this global obsession raises an important question. Why football? Why this tournament? Why does one sport generate so much attention across so many different countries, cultures, languages, and political systems? The answer begins with something larger than sport. It begins with identity. When a national team walks onto the field, it is not only representing 11 players, it is representing a country, a flag, a history, a language, a memory, and millions of people who want to feel that they belong to something larger than themselves. For 90 minutes, football becomes a symbol. And symbols are powerful. They can unite people who may disagree on almost everything else. They can give people a shared emotional language. They can transform a match into a national experience. This is why a goal is rarely just a goal. For the players, it may be a moment of sporting achievement. For the supporters, it may feel like recognition. For a country, it may feel like visibility. For a community, it may feel like dignity. Football matters because it allows people to say, we are here, we belong, we can be seen. That is why the World Cup is not simply a sporting competition. It is a global stage on which nations tell stories about who they are and who they aspire to be. But if football is a stage, the next question is more important. Who is using that stage? And for what purpose? For centuries, countries projected power through armies, territory, resources, and economic strength. Power was often measured by what a country could control, conquer, produce, or defend. But in the modern world, power often works differently. Sometimes the most effective form of influence is not coercion. It is attraction. It is the ability to shape how others see you, how they think about you, how they remember you. Whether they admire you, trust you, visit you, invest in you, listen to you, or associate you with success. Political scientists call this soft power. Unlike military power, soft power does not force people to follow you. Instead, it creates influence through culture, values, institutions, image, and reputation. Major sporting events are among the most powerful soft power tools ever created. When billions of people watch a World Cup, they are not only watching athletes, they are watching countries. They are watching cities, stadiums, airports, cultures, flags, languages, music, fans, ceremonies, and national stories. This helps explain why governments compete so intensely to host global sporting events. At first glance, it may seem irrational. Why spend billions of dollars building stadiums, transport systems, hotels, security networks, broadcasting infrastructure, and fan zones for a tournament that lasts only a few weeks? The answer is that governments are often investing in something less tangible but politically valuable: visibility, reputation, prestige, and influence. A successful World Cup can send a message to the world. We are modern. We are capable. We are organized. We are open. We are important. We belong on the global stage. And in international politics, perception matters. A country that is admired may find it easier to attract tourists, investment, partnerships, and diplomatic attention. This is the big question at the center of today's episode. Can a football tournament change how the world sees a country? The answer is not simple, but history shows that governments have often believed that it can. To host the World Cup is to invite the world to look at you. For a few weeks, the host country becomes a global image machine. Every stadium, every opening ceremony, every aerial shot of a city, every fan zone, every cultural performance, and every transport system becomes part of a national presentation. That is why hosting is rarely just about football infrastructure. It is also about national branding. Germany in 2006 presented itself through organization, hospitality, and a celebratory public atmosphere. South Africa in 2010 presented itself as the first African country to host the tournament, placing African culture and post-apartheid national identity at the center of the global stage. Brazil in 2014 presented football heritage, cultural energy, and global visibility, while also facing domestic debates about public spending and inequality. Qatar in 2022 used the tournament to increase international visibility and position itself as a significant actor in global sport and diplomacy. The same logic helps explain why the United States is hosting the World Cup in 2026. The tournament is expected to attract millions of visitors, generate billions of dollars in economic activity, and showcase American cities to a global audience. But the motivation is not only economic. Hosting the world's largest sporting event reinforces the country's image as a major cultural, economic, and sporting power. It is an opportunity to demonstrate infrastructure, attract investment, promote tourism, and strengthen international influence through visibility rather than force. Different countries, different contexts, different political systems, but a similar strategic logic. Hosting is not only about staging matches, it is about shaping the story the world tells about you. For governments, the hoped-for benefits can include tourism, urban development, international prestige, investment, and national pride. But hosting also carries risks. Stadiums can become expensive after the tournament. Infrastructure promises may not benefit all citizens equally. Public money can become controversial. Human rights concerns can draw international criticism, and the same global attention that helps a country promote itself can also expose its problems. This is why the World Cup is politically powerful, but also politically risky. It gives a country a microphone, but it does not fully control what the world will hear. But if hosting the World Cup is really about visibility and influence, another question naturally follows. What happens when sport becomes entangled with politics? Can a football tournament change how the world sees a country? Can sporting success strengthen national pride? And can governments use major sporting events to shape their international image? To answer those questions, we need to look at some of the most famous sporting events in modern history. Because the relationship between sport and politics is far older and far more complicated than many people realize. Sport is often described as separate from politics. Many fans want football to remain a space of joy, competition, skill, and escape. And in many ways, that desire is understandable. Football can bring people together. It can create shared memories. It can give ordinary people moments of happiness in difficult times. But the history of global sport shows that sport and politics are rarely completely separate. In 1936, Nazi Germany used the Olympic Games to project an image of strength, order, and national unity. In 1978, Argentina's military government hosted the World Cup while facing criticism over human rights abuses. In 2008, China used the Beijing Olympics to present its arrival as a major global power. In 2022, Qatar hosted the World Cup as part of a broader strategy of international visibility and influence. These examples are not identical. They involve different governments, different eras, different political systems, and different global debates. But they reveal a common truth. Global sport can be used to tell political stories. This does not mean that every fan who watches a match is participating in propaganda. It does not mean that every athlete is a political instrument, and it does not mean that football loses its beauty because politics surrounds it. The reality is more complex. Football can be both genuine sport and political theatre. It can be both entertainment and diplomacy. It can be both joy and controversy. It can unite people, while also raising difficult questions about power, inequality, rights, and reputation. That is the paradox of the World Cup. It is loved because it feels universal, but it is powerful because it is never neutral. And this leads to another question. If the World Cup is about power and image, who benefits economically from this global attention? Behind every match lies an enormous global industry. Sponsors, broadcasters, advertisers, technology companies, tourism operators, airlines, hotels, security firms, construction companies, merchandise manufacturers, streaming platforms, media organizations, betting markets, data companies. The World Cup is not only one of the largest sporting events on Earth, it is also one of the largest entertainment businesses on Earth. Broadcasting rights bring the tournament into homes across the world. Sponsorships connect global brands to national passion. Tourism creates demand for hotels, transport, restaurants, and local services. Merchandise turns identity into consumption. Digital platforms transform goals into clips, memes, debates, and global conversations within seconds. Wherever attention flows, money follows. And wherever money flows, competition follows. Countries compete to host. Companies compete to sponsor. Broadcasters compete for rights. Cities compete for visibility. Nations compete for prestige. Even before the first ball is kicked, another competition is already underway, a competition for influence, revenue, and recognition. This is why the World Cup cannot be understood only by watching what happens on the field. The match is the visible event, but around it is an entire system of business, politics, media, and global attention. That system helps explain why football has become one of the most powerful cultural industries in the world. Yet even economics does not fully explain why the World Cup matters. After all, money alone cannot account for the emotions, identities, and global connections that surround the tournament. So perhaps the bigger question is this: what does the World Cup reveal about the world itself? What can a football tournament teach us about globalization, migration, culture, and the way societies are changing? To answer that question, we need to look beyond the stadiums, beyond the sponsors, and beyond the matches themselves. Because the World Cup is not only played within the world, in many ways it reflects the world. The World Cup is often described as a celebration of sport, and it is. But it is also a reflection of the world around it. It reflects globalization. Players may be born in one country, raised in another, trained in a third, and employed by clubs in a fourth. National teams often tell stories of migration, diaspora, colonial history, citizenship, and belonging. Consider Achraf Hakimi. Born in Spain to Moroccan parents, developed through a Spanish academy, played professionally in several European leagues, and represents Morocco internationally. His journey reflects how modern football connects countries, cultures, and identities. It reflects technology. Matches are watched on televisions, phones, tablets, streaming platforms, and social media feeds. A goal scored in one stadium becomes a global digital event within seconds. It reflects economics. Wealthy leagues shape player development. Sponsorships shape visibility. Broadcasting markets shape schedules. Global audiences shape the commercial value of the tournament. It reflects politics. Flags, anthems, diplomatic gestures, boycotts, protests, and public debates all surround the tournament. And it reflects human identity. People who may never meet one another can feel connected through a shared team, a shared memory, or a shared disappointment. This is why the World Cup continues to matter so deeply. It gives people drama, beauty, skill, and emotion. But beneath those emotions lies something more enduring: the human desire to belong and to be recognized. In this sense, football becomes a mirror. It reflects who we are. It reflects the nations we belong to. It reflects the values we celebrate. It reflects the inequalities we debate. It reflects the world we are building together, and sometimes it reflects contradictions that are difficult to resolve. We want sport to unite us, but sport can also divide us. We want the tournament to be about fair play, but the system around it is shaped by money and politics. We want national pride, but we also live in a deeply interconnected world. That is why the World Cup is so fascinating. It is simple enough for a child to understand: one ball, two teams, one goal. But it is complex enough to reveal the forces shaping global society. If there is one idea to take away from today's story, it is this: the World Cup is not simply about football. It is about power, identity, influence, economics, culture, globalization, and the human desire to belong. What happens on the pitch captures our attention, but what happens beyond the pitch helps us understand the world itself. The World Cup is a football tournament, but it is also a mirror reflecting our world. Its ambitions, rivalries, inequalities, dreams, identities, and stories. So when the next World Cup match begins, watch the game. Watch the passes, the goals, the saves, the tactics and the celebrations. But also watch the story behind the game. Ask why countries want to host. Ask why leaders want to be seen near victory. Ask how nations use sport to shape reputation. Ask who benefits from the money, attention and emotion that football creates. The headlines tell us what happened. Understanding begins when we ask why. If you'd like to better understand the stories shaping our future, consider subscribing and join us for the next episode. This is Beyond the Headlines, from headlines to understanding. Thank you for watching.